Be me, 32. Sitting in my corner office, looking at my awards wall. Diversity and Leadership Award. Women Who Innovate plaque. All the good stuff. Phone buzzes. It's my mom. Third time today, I've been declining. She's probably calling about Thanksgiving again. I already told her I'm spending it with Carter this year. His family is less problematic. Finally pick up on the fourth call. Mum sounds weird, voice is tight. Says, I need to come home this weekend. It's about Dad. Immediately feel my shoulders tense. Dad and I haven't spoken properly in like 2 years. Not since I called him out at Christmas dinner for talking over Mum, when she was telling a story. He got all quiet and weird after that. Mum insists, says it's important. Fine, whatever. I'll drive up Saturday. Spend the week mentally preparing. Dad always had this way of making everything about him. Classic male fragility. Remember how during the divorce he kept trying to have these serious talks with me. I was 29, not a child, didn't need his perspective. Mom already explained everything, how she felt unseen, unheard, how he worked all the time and never really connected with her emotionally. Made perfect sense to me. I'd been gently pointing out his shortcomings to Mum for years before she finally left. Not that I caused the divorce, obviously, but I definitely helped her recognize her worth. Saturday comes. Make the 3-hour drive. Mom's house looks different somehow. She moved to this small condo after the divorce. Got the better end of the settlement, obviously. Dad didn't even fight it. Typical guilt response. Mom opens the door and she looks terrible. Like she hasn't slept in days. Immediately go into crisis mode. Ask if Dad did something. If he's been harassing her. She looks at me like I'm speaking another language. No, she says. Nothing like that. We need to talk about your father. Tells me to sit down. My mind is racing through possibilities. Did he get remarried? Is he dating someone problematic? Is this about the child support he paid for my younger brother? Mum is wringing her hands. Asks me when I last spoke to Dad. I don't know. Months. Maybe at brother's birthday dinner in March. Even then we didn't really speak. I was busy networking with brother's girlfriend's parents. They're in venture capital. Good connections. Mum's face does this crumpling thing. She tells me Dad tried to kill himself 2 weeks ago. Everything goes quiet in my head. I hear myself say what? My voice sounds far away. Mum is crying now, saying she got a call from Dad's neighbor. The neighbor had been checking on him because he hadn't taken in his trash cans for a week. Found him in his garage. Car running. Neighbor got there in time. Called 911. Dad is physically okay. In a psychiatric facility for observation. I'm just staring at Mom. My brain is trying to process this. Dad wouldn't do that. Dad is the stoic one. The one who never shows emotion. That's literally been my criticism of him for years. Start asking questions rapid fire. What led to this? Was it financial? Was it health? Mom is shaking her head. She tells me he left a note. She has it. The hospital gave her his belongings. I don't want to read it, but she's already handing it to me. It's typed. Single page. My hands are shaking as I read it. It's apologizing to everyone. To Mum for not being what she needed. To my brother for missing his baseball games when he was working overtime. To me for being a disappointment as a father. To me for making me ashamed of him. That last line hits weird. Keep reading. He talks about how, after the divorce, he kept trying to rebuild connections, especially with me. Mentions specific times he reached out. Asks about my promotion. I gave one word answers. He invited me to dinner. I cancelled 3 times, then stopped responding. Asked if he did something wrong. I told him I was just busy. All of this is in the note. Detailed. Dated. He kept a record of every attempt. Every rejection. My throat is getting tight. There's more. He talks about watching me pull away over the years. How I used to be Daddy's little girl. How somewhere in my 20s, I started looking at him with disgust. The word disgust is actually in the note. Says he could never figure out what he did. Just that one day, I seemed to decide he was worthless. And he started believing it too. Look up at Mum. She's watching me. With this expression, I can't read. Ask her why she's showing me this. She says, because I need to understand what happened. I'm getting defensive now. This isn't my fault. Dad's mental health isn't my responsibility. I'm his child, not his therapist. Mum's face hardens. She tells me to stop. Just stop. She starts talking, and I've never heard her use this tone before. She tells me that after the divorce, she thought she'd feel free. All those things I'd pointed out about Dad over the years. His emotional unavailability, his tendency to solve instead of listen. She'd started seeing him through my eyes. And she convinced herself I was right. But after she left, something changed. She started seeing things clearly. Asks me if I knew Dad worked 60-hour weeks for 15 years. Not because he loved work. Because I insisted on going to a private university, the expensive one. Because I wanted to study abroad twice. Because I needed an unpaid internship in New York, and someone had to cover my rent. Mum had wanted him to say no, to make me take loans. But he never did, just worked more. I'm starting to feel sick. Mum keeps going. Tells me Dad used to see a therapist. I never knew that. He started going when I was in college, trying to learn how to be more emotionally open. Because Mum said that's what she needed. The therapist told him he was severely depressed. Recommended medication. He never filled the prescription. Told the therapist he needed to fix this himself. Be a better man. It asks if I remember the year after college. When I moved back home, I lived with them for 18 months, rent-free. During that time, I was constantly critiquing Dad. The way he talked, how he spent his weekends, his opinions. Mum says she watched him get smaller and smaller. He stopped talking at dinner, started spending more time in the garage. I thought he was avoiding us because he couldn't handle strong women. I actually wrote that in my journal. I remember. Mum's voice cracks when she tells me he was crying. Sitting in his car in the garage, crying where we couldn't hear him. I want to interrupt, but my voice isn't working. Mum tells me about the divorce, how I encouraged it, validated her, took her to consultation with lawyers, helped her plan her exit strategy. I thought I was being supportive, being a good daughter. Mum says I was coaching her to see him as the enemy. Every complaint she had, I amplified it. Every hurt feeling, I turned into a violation. She started using language I had taught her. Emotional labor, mental load, weaponized incompetence. Words she didn't fully understand, but that made Dad sound worse than he was. She tells me that when she asked for the divorce, Dad didn't fight, didn't argue, didn't blame, just asked if there was anything he could do. Anything he could change. She said no. Because I'd convinced her he was incapable of change, that this was just who men like him were. My chest is so tight I can barely breathe, Mum says after the divorce. She watched Dad disappear. He lost 40 pounds in 3 months, stopped seeing his friends. His brother called her worried. Dad had stopped returning calls. When the brother visited unannounced, the house was a mess. Dad was a mess. My uncle begged Mom to check on him. She was going to, but I told her that wasn't her job anymore. Told her she needed to maintain boundaries, not let his emotional manipulation pull her back in. Emotional manipulation. Those were the words I used. Mom is really crying now. Tells me that when she got the call about Dad's suicide attempt, her first thought was relief. Relief that he was alive, followed immediately by crushing guilt, because she realized she still loved him, maybe never stopped, but I had made loving him feel like weakness, like betraying herself, like betraying me. She looks at me directly, tells me she's moving back in with Dad when he gets out of the facility. They're going to try therapy together. Real therapy, not separation therapy. She says she wasted 3 years of their lives because she let me poison her against him. The word poison feels like a slap. I'm finding my voice now. Getting defensive. I didn't make her do anything. She made her own choices. I was just supporting her. Mom shakes her head. Says I was supporting my own narrative. My worldview where men like Dad are the problem, where women are always the victims of male inadequacy. She asks me when I became so full of contempt for the man who paid for everything I have, who never once told me I couldn't do something because I was a girl, who taught me to change a tire and balance a checkbook and negotiate a salary, brings up specific memories I'd forgotten. Dad teaching me to drive, staying patient through all my mistakes. Dad sitting up with me all night before my dissertation defense. He didn't understand my topic, but he listened to me practice, asked questions that actually helped me clarify my thinking. Dad, flying out to my first big presentation, sitting in the back of the conference room looking proud. When did that man become someone I couldn't stand to have dinner with? I'm crying now, and I hate it. Tell Mom, she's not being fair. Dad wasn't perfect. He did dismiss her feelings sometimes. He did make mistakes. Mom agrees. Says yes, he made mistakes. But they were mistakes, not crimes. And she made mistakes too. But I only ever held him accountable. Only ever saw his shortcomings. Asks me why I think that is. I don't have an answer. She answers for me. Says, I walked around so convinced of my own enlightenment. So, sure, I understood relationships, gender dynamics, power structures. I had all the right language and frameworks. But I never had the wisdom to see a full human being. Just a collection of problematic behaviors to correct. Tells me my brother still sees Dad regularly, every week since the divorce. I didn't know that either. I thought my brother had the same issues with Dad I did. Turns out he never did. He just let me rant and didn't argue. He's the one who found the note first. The hospital called him as emergency contact. He called Mom. Neither of them called me for 2 weeks. They were debating whether to tell me at all. That hurts more than anything else somehow. Ask why they would keep this from me. Mom says, because my brother told her I wouldn't care, that I'd find a way to make it about Dad's male fragility, his inability to cope with consequences of his actions. I start to argue, but the words die. Because she's right. That's exactly the framework I would have used. I can feel it, in my brain, already forming those arguments. Sit there in silence for a while. Mum tells me Dad doesn't know she's telling me this. He specifically said not to. He said I had my own life, and he didn't want to burden me. Even after everything, even in his lowest moment, he was trying to protect me from feeling bad. And I haven't called him in 8 months. Couldn't spare 15 minutes. Mum asks if I'm going to visit him in the facility. I don't know what to say. What would I even say to him? Sorry, I decided you were a representation of patriarchal oppression instead of a person. Sorry, I was so busy being right about everything that I couldn't see you were dying inside. Sorry, I loved the idea of being a strong, independent woman more than I loved you. I realize I'm spiraling. Ask Mum what she wants from me. She says she wants me to think. Really think about the last 5 years. About every time I rolled my eyes at Dad. Every time I cut him off or dismissed him. Every time I made him feel small. And ask myself what I was really doing. She tells me she's been reading my old journals, the ones I left at home. I feel violated for a second, then remember whose house it is. She read about all my theories about Dad, about how he represented everything wrong with his generation of men, how embarrassing I found him, how much smarter and more evolved I was. Seeing it quoted back to me makes me want to throw up. Mum stands up, tells me I should go, process this on my own. But before I leave, she says one more thing. Tells me that Dad kept every card I ever gave him, every Father's Day card, birthday card, random thank you note. They're in a box in his closet. She found them when she was packing his things to bring to the facility. The last one is from 6 years ago. I stopped sending cards when I started seeing them as performative gestures of heteronormative family structures. I actually said that once, at brunch with friends, drive home in a daze, 3 hours of just my thoughts, trying to remember when I started hating Dad, except I didn't hate him. I just stopped seeing him as fully human. He became a symbol. Everything I was taught to critique and deconstruct: traditional masculinity, emotional repression, provider complex. I had all the terminology. I won all the arguments at dinner parties, but I lost my father. Get home, and Carter asks how it went. I tell him Dad tried to kill himself. Carter looks shocked, asks if I'm okay, asks what he can do. I hear myself say, I don't know. Carter starts trying to problem solve, offering solutions, next steps, practical help. I'm about to snap at him for trying to fix, instead of just listening. Then I stop. That's what I always criticize Dad for. Trying to solve problems instead of validating feelings. What if that's just how some people show love? The thought feels like betrayal. Spend all night going through my phone, looking at text exchanges with Dad. They get progressively shorter on my end. His messages are always asking about me. My work, my life, if I need anything. Mine are fine, good, busy, can't talk. There's one thread where he asks if I want to get lunch. I leave him on read for 3 days, then respond that I'm too busy. He sends back a thumbs up emoji. That was 7 months ago. Find old photos on my laptop. There's one from my college graduation. Dad's arm around my shoulders. He's looking at me like I hung the moon. I'm already looking away from the camera, probably checking my phone. Remember that day vividly, now. He gave me a card with a check. More money than he could afford. I said thanks and immediately started talking to my friends. Never even read the card. Probably threw it away. It's 3 a.m. and I'm crying in my bathroom. Carter is asleep. I'm looking at myself in the mirror, trying to figure out who I became. When did being right become more important than being kind? When did my politics become more important than my people? Got a degree, got a career, got a vocabulary that made me feel superior. And I used all of it to destroy a man whose only crime was not performing emotions the way I thought he should. Think about all the conversations I dominated. All the times I corrected Dad's language, told him his opinions were problematic, and made him feel stupid for not understanding terms I just learned. I thought I was educating. I was humiliating. Remember Mom saying I was full of contempt. She's right. I've been walking around contemptuous of so much. Anyone who didn't speak my language or share my frameworks. Especially Dad. Especially men like Dad, who worked hard and didn't complain, who showed love through action instead of words. I'd learned that was toxic. That real love required verbal affirmation and emotional availability. So I wrote Dad off as incapable. He wasn't incapable. He was trying. And I never noticed because I'd already decided he would fail. Start thinking about the divorce differently. How involved I was. How I encouraged Mum to see everything in the worst light. He works late. He's avoiding intimacy. He tries to solve her problems. He's dismissing her feelings. He doesn't talk about emotions. He's emotionally stunted. I had an answer for everything, and every answer made him the villain. What if Mum was just going through a rough patch? What if they could have worked it out? What if my constant validation of her complaints made her think leaving was the only option? I helped her see divorce as liberation. Helped her plan it like a military operation. Was so proud of myself for being supportive. Never once asked if she still loved him. Never once suggested counseling. Just assumed she should leave. Because that's what empowered women do, right? They don't stay with men who can't meet their needs. But what about Dad's needs? Did he even have needs in my framework? Or was he just supposed to endlessly adapt and improve? While we endlessly critiqued and demanded, thinking about him in that garage. Car running. Note typed, apologizing to everyone. Especially to me for disappointing me. I disappointed him. I was his daughter, and I made him feel worthless. Then acted like his pain was his own fault. His own failure to be a better man. It's getting light outside. Haven't slept at all. Carter finds me still in the bathroom. Asks if I'm okay. I tell him I need to visit my dad. He nods, offers to come with me. I almost say no automatically. Then I say yes. Maybe I need to stop doing everything alone. Stop proving I don't need anyone. Call the facility when they open. Ask about visiting hours. The receptionist asks my relation to the patient. I say, I'm his daughter. She puts me on hold. Comes back and says, my father has requested no visitors except his son. The words hit like a physical blow. I ask if she's sure. She confirms. I can hear the pity in her voice. Call my brother, he answers after 2 rings. I ask if it's true. Dad doesn't want to see me. Long silence. Then he says, yeah, it's true. I ask, why? Another silence. He tells me because I make Dad feel like he wants to die. Those are his exact words, apparently. Seeing me reminds him of everything he failed at. Every way he was insufficient. I'm trying not to cry on the phone. Ask my brother if he hates me. He sighs. Says he doesn't hate me. But he's been watching me eviscerate Dad for years. And he never said anything because I'd just call him problematic too. Tells me I turned into someone who mistakes cruelty for consciousness. Someone who weaponizes therapy language to abuse people. Then acts confused when there's consequences. Want to argue, but he's right. Ask what I should do. He says, I should probably start by asking myself why I needed Dad to be a villain so badly. Why I needed to be the enlightened one, the one who could see all his flaws and failures. What was I getting out of that? We hang up. I'm sitting on my couch. Carter is making coffee. And I'm realizing I don't have an answer. I built my whole identity on being the aware one. The one who understood systems and power and dynamics. The one who could identify problematic behavior. I got praised for it, got career advancement from it, built friendships around it, and somewhere in all that, I forgot that people aren't systems. They're not case studies or examples. They're messy and contradictory and trying their best. Dad was trying his best. For me, for Mom, for our family. His best didn't look like what I'd been taught to value. So I treated it like it was nothing. Worse than nothing. Treated it like it was harmful. A man worked himself into depression trying to provide for me. And I thanked him by making him feel worthless, by encouraging his wife to leave him, by disappearing from his life, by being too busy, too important, too evolved. He almost died, and he doesn't want to see me, because I'm the one who made him feel like dying was reasonable. Carter brings me coffee, asks what I'm thinking. I tell him I think I've been a terrible person. He doesn't disagree, just sits with me. And I realize this might be the first time I've admitted I was wrong in years. Really wrong. Not wrong in a performative way, where I'm actually still right, but deeply, fundamentally wrong. Don't know how to fix this. Don't know if I can. Dad doesn't want to see me. Mum is disappointed in me. Brother barely tolerates me. And I'm sitting here, realizing that every framework I used to understand the world led me to destroy the person who loved me most. No clever insight to make this better. No language to deconstruct my way out. Just the crushing weight of realizing I broke something I can't fix. Because I was so sure I was right. I was so sure I was right.